Joe talks about Joe. And now, your host, Joe Slepsky.
Hello, hello. Welcome back to Joe on Joe. It's me, your host, Joe Slepsky. And man, am I happy to be back. Last week, I was on a little vacation, so I recorded early. So it's been a couple weeks since I've recorded. And in that time, what have I had delivered? Scarlett showed up on my front door. I got an email notification that the G.I. Joe trading card game is shipping. It said it was shipping this week, but this week came and went. So hopefully it ships soon. But the email fired at least, so that's exciting. I pre-ordered those Super 7, the deluxe ones. Was it Flint and Destro and Baroness and Lady J? Those look fabulous. And let's see what else. What other G.I. Joe fun stuff came through? I think that's it. Oh, of course. Wait a minute. My Zartan showed up, everybody. Yeah, the color change deluxe Zartan from the classified line. That arrived in the mail last week. And boy, does that look amazing. I'm personally just, I keep these closed because I don't have a lot of display case space. I don't have a lot of display space. Let's put it that way. So if I were to open up all my boxes, everything would get everywhere, and it would just be a cluster. So for now, they're all still sealed in their boxes, but hopefully that won't be the case. Hopefully I get myself a nice big office, and then we crack all these boxes open, and get some nice display Zartan on the shelf, because that figure looks fantastic. I really love it. I like the packaging. I really love the dial-less Zartan on the front. I thought I will say this, the Zartan looks a little too cartoony. It looks. I'm not a super huge fan. Does anyone else agree with me on this? The actual image of Zartan on the front itself, like the design is absolutely 100%. It's just the Zartan itself is a little, it's a little weird. It took me a second to wrap my head around it. Now, this week we are talking about G.I. Joe 104, and it is the Assassin Unleashed. When we left, Storm Shadow had put Snake Eyes into the Arashikage mindset, turning him into a killing machine. Think Wolverine's Berserker Rage. That's essentially what they gave Snake Eyes, and I love it. I'm here for it. This issue is the start of his big mission to rescue George Strawhacker. I love this issue. I love the cover. I like everything about the issue. And we're going to dig into it as we go on in this episode. So for you new listeners, what we do here is it's me, your host, and I go through we did every episode of the cartoon up through G.I. Joe Extreme. We're going to get back to it and do some of the more recent cartoons. We will get back to that. And then now we're working our way through the actual comic books. We do page by page, panel by panel breakdowns of every issue. Now, while you're absorbing that and thinking like, wow, that's a lot of listening that I'm going to have to do, you don't have to listen to it all at once. In fact, I recommend breaking up listens of the Joe and Joe podcast with our sponsor podcast, the Movies in a Meal podcast.
Listeners, I know what you need in your life. You need more podcasts. And you also love movies. So why not do a podcast that's about not one movie? It's about not two movies. It's about 3 movies and a meal. I'm talking the Movies and a Meal podcast. This show is great. It's brought to you by Keith, Brad, and Ben, and each week they bring a new movie to the table, which they all discuss as a group. And it's not, your highfalutin movies. It's What We Do in the Shadows, The Fantastic Four, Rise of the Silver Surfer, and Out of Sight. It's Bad Education, Ghost Rider, and A View to a Kill. It's X-Men Last Stand, Queen Sugar, The Mandalorian, and Major League 2. They are a lot of fun to listen to. You guys know Ben. It's our friend Ben Pensarga. He was a guest on Joe and Joe. In fact, Ben was the very first remote guest that I ever had on this podcast, so he's always got a special place in my heart. I'm really digging this. I just started listening to it last week. It is a lot of fun. They bring a guest in. The guest, I listened to their Heathers episode. They were joined by Kelly, and she went in depth on her favorite movie, which was Heathers, and it made me want to go watch Heathers to watch with them. I really dig it. So guys, find them out there at Movies and a Meal, Twitter, Instagram. Their website is moviesandameal.podbean.com. They put out 1 episode a week. Give them a listen, guys. Support them. Let them know Joe on Joe sent you. I don't think you're going to be disappointed. It is quite entertaining. And now back to the show.
While you're scrambling through your phone to subscribe to the Movies in a Mill, which you absolutely should be doing, everyone within earshot, give them a listen. I want you to follow me. Give me a follow on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Go to Joe and Joe Pod on all those things. Send me an email to joeandjoepod@gmail.com. Let me know what you think of the show. And I'm going to talk about something that I did get an email on, and I really love that I got an email on this, because I also got a message from our friend Dave Amiot, but I got an email from Andy Johnson. And Andy, I appreciate you so much. He's reached out before to say hello, and I really do appreciate all the letters, guys. You guys don't know. It's hearing from listeners like this. It's totally, Philip Barnes, you're out there. I know you're always great with a comment. Like it really uplifts your local podcaster. It makes us, it reminds us that we're not just speaking into the void. So Andy Johnson sent me a great note, and I've been, as he said, killing him with my pronunciation of Raggedy Moof. Now I'm saying it Raggedy Moof. Apparently, this was meant to be like Raggedy Mouth, like the guy. We're talking about the gang member who was part of the team of youths that are helping Mutt and Spirit liberate Millville in that B story that we've been covering, which actually strangely isn't in this issue, which is really strange because Larry normally does a really great balancing act with all these. And I think there's so much action-packed stuff in 104 that they're just like, you know what? Millville had a nice hiatus where, the guys, Cobra won, so to speak. So we're giving it Millville a little hiatus where the guys were they arrested or just held in custody? Cobra confused everybody saying, going undercover and all that, hiding that they had taken over the whole time. So I think we're in a little bit of a respite this issue. I don't remember if we go back to it next issue. Again, I'm rereading these for the first time in 30 years. So, but Raggedy Mouth, as Andy Johnson. And Andy, I think you're 100% correct here. Saying he has bad teeth. So people are calling him Raggedy Mouth because he has bad teeth. So my question is, why don't just call him Raggedy Mouth? I don't get it. I don't understand why it can't be Moof. Or why it has to be Moof and why it can't be Muff. Because it just reads like Raggedy Moof, Raggedy Muff. I don't understand that. Maybe it's supposed to be Raggedy. And actually, there's a Springsteen lyric about Raggedy Muff. I think there is. But maybe they were like, don't you, maybe I said this on the other show, you can't really say muff because it doesn't really mean that. You know what I mean? Adults. But this made me think of Christopher Priest's work over on Black Panther, and I know he used it before he did Black Panther. I think he started using this in, what's the acclaimed book? Not Archer and Armstrong. The two superheroes. I'm blanking on their names, but they're great. They clang arm bracelets together, and one's a goofball and one's real serious about being a superhero. They did the miniseries was called Goat. Or the one shot was called Goat. Why am I thinking of Goat and I can't think of... Anyway, he used a term called Mov Stepper, which when you read it in context, it's obvious that he's trying to say mother blanker, effer. But the closest he could get in those worlds to use that term to make it sound like the guys were really talking for real, they'd call someone a Mov Stepper. Is that what's happening here with the Raggedy Muff? I don't know. So it's not a controversy, but I'm very glad that people finally pointed it out to me because I genuinely, and I still, now that's pointed out, I'm like, okay, all right. It seems like it would have been easier to just call him Raggedy Mouth, which is funny. I don't know. Anyway, so the Raggedy Moof controversy continues, or did we just put an end to it? I don't know. I don't have an answer, but that's all thanks to Andy Johnson and Dave Amiot, who also pointed out the same thing this week. I love it. I thank you. Cause there's a lot of stuff, it just misses. It goes over my head. I don't know. And what? Just like this. Hold on. Quantum and Woody. I can't believe I couldn't remember that, especially because he does it with Mark Bright, who's penciling these G.I. Joe issues, and Bright and Priest are one of my favorites. Yeah, so it just shows you what your brain can, your brain can fart out. So yeah, so before we get into the comic,
You were saying?
I was saying Stalker, and I was saying let's look at comic books that were on the shelf the same month as G.I. Joe number 104, cover dated September. It'd be September of 1990. And over at DC Comics, we've got Batman 454. It's Dark Knight, Dark City. And this was an effort to build this. Well, it's a Riddler story. And they try. I think they thought it was going to be bigger. Like it's got, I believe that's Kevin Nolan covers, and maybe Mike Mignola is involved here. Oh, hold on. Like it tied in the Riddler with some mystical history of, Mike Mignola did the cover with like a mystical history of Gotham. And those are two great tastes that I don't necessarily think taste great together. I don't need the Riddler to be tied up in a mystic. I remember when I read this, that was my takeaway, on the Dark Knight, Dark City. Like, I think it's a 4-parter where either give me a Gotham City that kind of has these, gothic, mystical, otherworldly connections. Okay, sure. You're going to tell that story, or give me the Riddler. Don't do both. I don't think the Riddler necessarily worked. Having said that, it's a capably crafted comic book and it's fun. And, that whole era of Batman is always fun. It's hard to find a bad era of Batman, really. But yeah, that was my takeaway in that. Those two tastes, I remember specifically thinking that I wasn't really super enamored with them being combined. What else do we got here? Flash, Green Arrow. Green Arrow is running bi-weekly, apparently. They were having a summer. Hawk and Dove. So Hawk and Dove is issue 16. The reason Hawk and Dove jumps out to me is I finally found the stomach to watch season 3 of Titans. I had watched the first 2 seasons to not a lot of love. And I started watching season 3. A couple episodes in, there's so much about that show that I don't like. And they blew up Hawk, just blew him up and made it be Dove's fault. Like, it's such a grim show. It's just no fun. I don't enjoy that show. And I didn't enjoy seeing Hawk just laying in bed being blown up. And also Superboy just being, you have a Superboy on your team. And that's all. That show's rough. That show is a rough show. I'm sorry. Legion of Superheroes number 11. This is of course the 5 year later Legion. We've talked about this for the last few episodes of my show. The greatest era, not the great, maybe, my favorite era. I don't know if it's the greatest era because it didn't last as long as it should have and didn't spawn as much as, earlier eras, but it's my personal favorite. And this issue's awesome. This issue, they catch up on where Matt Reader Lad has been for the last 5 years. And they introduce you to, Tenzel Kem, senator from the planet Bismol being his home planet where he was already from. It's great. It's an absolute great, fun, really fun issue. The annual was also out this month, the first annual. And this was the one where they kind of, they hint at it. They don't really put it into text. That Phase from Legion is Tinia. They cemented that a few years later in the pages of Legion, where they straight up said, Phase is Tinia. But in this one, they just say that Glorith took Tinia, Tinia being, Phantom Girl. And that's Joe Na's girlfriend, who's Ultra Boy. And they started laying the seeds for that technically seeds were already laid when Legion had a phasing girl who looked just like Tinia, but they laid more tracks for that story in this annual. It's great. It's got that cover is by I think Adam Hughes. Adam Hughes, if memory serves. Oh yeah, Adam Hughes cover. So it's a real sexy Glorith, and she's manipulating Ultra Boy like a puppet, like a marionette. It's very, very cool. What else do we got here? Bum bum bum. Titan, Starfire, Sandman, Starman. Oh, this was good. Starman's good. It's Starman issue 26, and so this is the Will Payton Starman series that I think only would run maybe another 4 issues. I think it either only went to like issue 32 or maybe even like 28. It's very close to the end. But they brought back David, who is Ted Knight's oldest son, Jack Knight's older brother. Jack Knight being the Starman from the 90s series, which is probably the best series pound for pound for my money that you can read from DC in the 90s, certainly in the 90s, if not for a long, long time after that. I love the Starman series. And this is the one where they bring David, or they introduced, way before they had conceived of Jack Knight, they introduced David, and he shows up in his dad's World War II Starman look to challenge Will Payton, who was the outer space 80s Starman, for the mantle. If that made any sense to you, congratulations, you've read Starman, which is, again, a fabulous, fabulous series. If that didn't make any sense to you, I urge you, read Starman. It's a fabulous, fabulous series. And, yeah, it's going to be it for DC Comics.
You were saying?
I was saying, Steeler. So now we're going to jump over to Marvel and see what Marvel has on their docket. Now, did everyone see Eternals? I hope so. I liked it. I don't understand the hate that it got in some corners. I didn't love it. I didn't think it was, I think it bit off more than it could possibly chew. Like, it tried to do Endgame level stuff where we know it's not Endgame. So, like, again, spoilers, Eternals. We know the world's not going to blow up. So when that's one of the only stakes in your movie, it's not much of a stake. So, like, there wasn't much. It was like, they're not going to destroy the planet Earth, in this one. In Endgame, when they snapped away half of people alive, you're like, okay, there's stakes. Like, who knows what they're going to do? This one, I didn't have that. I liked it. I thought Kumail Nanjiani's character was, while great, and I like him as a comedian, totally unnecessary to the story, especially because he's not even in the final battle. So, and stuff like that, like little things like that bothered me. But overall, it was fun. It was certainly, I've definitely seen worse. And it looked great. I thought the performances were really good. I thought everyone really did a good job. Cutting to the very end, there's a lot of spoilers out there, so I won't say the exact spoiler, but I will say that in the post-credit sequence, the CGI character looks terrible. I don't know how Marvel let a CGI character that looked that bad make it to the final movie, because it looks really, really bad. I hope they fix it in post for future home video release, because boy, does it look terrible. I love the choice of actors for it. Patton Oswalt's amazing, but I think that model is not good. Also, the costume on the other guy in the scene, who I do not care that they cast the guy they cast. I don't care. He's whatever. I have no opinion on him. But the costume they put him in was ill-fitting and poorly designed. It looked like something out of a CW show. That whole post-credit scene, if they told me that was shot in September of 2021, I would not be surprised. Conceived and shot in September of 2021, I would not be surprised. That's how amateurish that came off. So pull no punches on that one. I did not like it. I love the other Stinger. That was cool. And I love Black Knight, so that's awesome. So hopefully they do something with him. Anyway, let's look at comics that were on the shelf. Spider-Man is in the middle of his Return of the Sinister Six series, which was a fun crossover that has had a lot of legs in the aftermarket, like the trade paperback market, because it's literally got everybody. And that's going to be, something like this is relevant with that new Spider-Man movie where, poster dropped today and it looks like, you got, so it's not really a spoiler, but like the Doc Ock and Green Goblin and everyone's involved. So I don't know if they're doing the full on quote unquote Sinister Six, but a lot of his villains are showing up in this new movie and that's fun. This is also, it's illustrated by Eric Larson. It's a fun. This is always a perennial. It's an easy sell to kids because you can say, look at Spider-Man fighting all his villains, and they usually really, really dig it. Over in Avengers 323, Avengers, remember, Circe from the Eternals is on the team now. So if you're a fan of the Eternals, you can find some Circe adventures in these old Avengers issues. She would be on the team for a long time. She joined around this time. I don't remember exactly what issue, but she was on it for at least, I think, another 50 issues, all the way through their leather jacket years, which was awesome. It was her and Black Knight. That's where the Black Knight romance came from. She was hooked up with Black Knight in the pages of the Avengers, but they all wore brown leather jackets because it was the 90s, and that's what you did. And it was a weird look for the Avengers. Drawn by Steve Epting, which he's so great, and he was great then too, but he was real, he was younger, and I don't think his style was as polished. And I say polished, he doesn't have a smooth style, but he's gotten better over the years, I would say. So his early style was just edgy and wearing jackets, look out. So that was kind of funny watching Eternals and thinking, oh man, they're this close to the leather jacket Avengers. That's so fun. Camp Candy makes it all the way up to issue number 5. How many issues of Camp Candy did they do? We need to find out. Count Duckula is all the way up on issue 13. Excalibur is running bi-weekly this month. Look at this. They collected the Fantastic Four and X-Men into a trade paperback. I don't know that I've really seen this a lot. And remember, they weren't doing a lot of trades back then. So to collect a story into a trade like this was a rarity. We've talked about that a little bit with like Captain Britain and Captain America stuff. And this was the FF X-Men crossover, which they did a follow-up to just like 2 years ago. It was early on in the Jonathan Hickman era. I think it was just X-Men versus Fantastic Four or something like that, or meets Fantastic Four. And they dealt with, and they absolutely, it was a follow-up to this one. They referenced this miniseries quite a bit. So it was fun. Of course, G.I. Joe 104. Let's see. Iron Man's in the middle of the terminus. The Trial of Moon Knight. Mark Spector, Moon Knight 18. Just random filing conundrum. This is always a series. Do you file it under Moon Knight? Do you file it under Mark Spector? I don't know the answer to that, because certainly in different catalog softwares, they will put it differently. So I don't know. I tend to put it under Moon Knight, but it's technically Mark Spector, so you put it under MA. It's your call. It's so controversial. All the kids are talking about it. Wolverine guest stars on New Mutants 93, going at it at Cable. So Marvel's got some real exciting stuff this month. Marvel's got a lot of poppin' books. Spider-Man number 2 is out. This is the Todd McFarlane run. They've also got a Spider-Man graphic novel, an actual graphic novel called Spirits of the Earth by Charles Vess. If you don't know Charles Vess, V-E-S-S, you should. His artwork is gorgeous. I don't know if I've read this book, but it's Charles Vess artwork, so it's worth it. I promise you this. Thanos Quest number 1. This is, I feel like we spoke about this book. That's interesting. Did it also come out last month? Anyway, this is that preamble to the Infinity War, or Infinity Gauntlet, rather. Yeah, I know we talked about this book. Interesting. I wonder why it's on here twice. Anyway, so I'm not going to bore you with that again. I will wrap up Marvel with Uncanny X-Men 268, which has one of my favorite covers of all time on any X-Men book. It's got Captain America, Wolverine, and Black Widow. And the story is a flashback to them fighting, and it's by Jim Lee, and it's drawn by Jim Lee inside. And it's this flashback of them fighting in World War II, where World War II era Cap and World War II era Wolverine rescue a very, very young Natasha Romanoff, Black Widow, and the friendship and bond and forge stuff. It's a cool story. Does craziness with the timeline, even though I do believe at the time that would have worked, because this is 30 years ago. So it was closer to be able to say, yeah, Natasha's this. Also, I think they did like an infinity formula thing with Natasha where she doesn't age, like kind of like Nick Fury, but it always weird to think that she would have been a child during World War II and then still like the sexiest assassin in 1990. setting that aside, it's a great comic book. And I think they did an episode of the animated series that was roughly based on this, where Wolverine and Captain America are fighting World War II. I don't think they included Black Widow in the cartoon. It's been a few years since I watched it, but yeah, they definitely, it's so good. Absolutely so good. So
You were saying?
we're going to see what films were in the theaters. So May of 1990. So this is May. So this book, G.I. Joe 104, was on the stands in May of 1990, even though it's, cover dated September. It was actually on the stands in May. We got Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. This is like, first we had Creepshow, or did Twilight Zone the movie come first? And then they did Creepshow, and so now and maybe even Creepshow 2. And so now we're getting all the way to Tales from the Dark Side, the movie. And a lot of people in this: James Remar, William Hickey, Christian Slater, Ray Don Chong, Matthew Lawrence, Steve Buscemi, Julianne Moore, Robert Sedgwick. Wow. Robert Klein's in this. Debbie Harry shows up in this. David Johansen. George Romero did the screenplay. That's awesome. I have not watched this movie in a long time. But I do remember enjoying it. It's a film depicts a kidnapped paperboy tells 3 stories of horror to suburban witch who is preparing to eat him. Yeah, it has been a long time since I've seen this movie. But I'm all for it. It's if you look at the poster for it, that monster reading the book absolutely looks like Stripe from Gremlins. So that's on May 4th. We also have on that day, Short Time. I've seen Short Time. That's where, Short Time with Dabney Coleman. He thinks he has like 2 days left to live. And he's trying to kill himself, I think, for insurance for his wife. I think is why, but it's something like he has no time to live. And so he's trying to get himself killed, but in a way that's not suicide. And it just can't happen. And I believe, of course, he's actually doesn't have 2 days to live or however long. It was a mix up at the hospital. But I love Dabney Coleman. If you're not a fan of Dabney Coleman, Terry Garr's in it, Joey Pantoliano. If you're not a fan of Dabney Coleman, I don't know where you're from, because it certainly isn't my world. Dabney Coleman is amazing. Let's see, May 11th. Oh, Class of 1999. Isn't this? Oh, is this not? Oh, this is the sequel to Class of 84, which was that like the punks have taken over. It was probably Los Angeles, I imagine. So I've never seen Class of 99. I don't think I knew they did a sequel to that movie. Interesting. Oh, on May 18th, we've got Bird on a Wire, Mel Gibson and Goldie Hawn. Also, same day, we got Cadillac Man, which is actually pretty good film. It's a black comedy, so it's a little dark, but it's funny. And it's got Robin Williams and Tim Robbins. And Robin Williams was just so great. He's just so great. Him, Dabney Coleman. Man, did he and Dabney Coleman ever do anything together? That would have been amazing. What else do we got here? Oh, well, of course. You get to the end of the month. Let's see. There's a movie called May 20th, Voices Within. The 22nd, there's a movie called The Swordsman. Oh, that looks like a Hong Kong film. And then on the 25th, clear the decks, guys, because you got Back to the Future Part 3. Bam! I remember seeing this in the theaters. I was there. Love Back to the Future. What else? I mean, what else do you say about Back to the Future? It's just absolutely amazing. So that's it for
You were saying?
And now we're going to
Now, mass is ready.
I always jump Destro's now. And I apologize, Destro. I don't mean to take your now. Real American Hero number 104. Cover by Lee Weeks. He's got Snake Eyes diving out of a stealth bomber with parachute, gun in hand. Here's what I love about this dive. Not only is the Uzi just held in his hand, it's not being like there's no strap around his shoulder. There's nothing to protect it in case it slips. He's at falling speeds. He's holding his Uzi. He's also got his finger on the trigger. That means he's ready for action. A mile above the earth. He's ready to go for it. And in the clouds, we see a cloud vision of Scarlett in her hospital bed with her head all bandaged up after being shot a few issues back. So that's what's on Snake Eyes' mind. Technically a representational cover. Remember, we talk about this. We don't have a lot of representational covers on this. This one counts because unless those clouds actually were forming a vision of Scarlett's face, what we're looking at is what's going through Snake Eyes' mind as he's jumping on this mission. Uzi in hand and everything. So this is technically a representational cover, and I'm here for it. I like it. I really do. Really do. I do think that there's something going on with the size ratio here. I just the lines are so thick in some places that it makes me think that these images that Lee Weeks was providing for the covers were being blown up by production. I've nothing. Don't at me. Unless you have an answer. I have nothing to support that, but just based on kind of the thickness of the lines and his autographs really, I don't know. There's just something about this, all these Lee Weeks covers that seem like they're just a little bit too zoomed in on than they were originally intended. Again, don't at me. I think they're great, but yeah, this cover's dope. Yeah, there it is.
Yo, Joe!
Hero of the People. Script, Larry Hama. Pencils, Mark Bright. Inks, Randy Emberlin. Bob Sharon coloring. Rick Parker lettering. Bobby Chase editor. Tom DeFalco editor-in-chief. Very cool shot of Snake Eyes plummeting through the air. There's no speed lines here. You can tell he's in the air. You could the pose is perfect, the Mark Bright pose. You could tell that, I love that they give him this bag on the tether, like his duffel on the tether with his equipment on it. You see the briefcase that he uses later. That's attached to the duffel. Everything about this version of Snake Eyes looks great to me. And it's just it's a slam bang way to start an issue. You start it with your hero in free fall. He's not, the chute hasn't deployed, it's not like safely going. He's just plummeting from the sky.
Yo, Joe!
And now we see where he is. He's over a city. Really cool use of, the clouds are starting to part. So if you think about it as in like a live action movie, so much about the Mark Bright era is very cinematic. He really paints a nice picture. He really sets it up like a camera on a movie set, and gives you a good view of everything that's happening. No different here. You can imagine the clouds parting almost like the first issue would have been kind of tranquil, and there would have been, the silence or the wind whistling and bright clouds, etc. Then as the clouds part, you would hear the commotion below and see the fires burning in the town in revolt, etc. That kind of a thing. And that would get louder and louder and louder the closer Snake Eyes got, bringing you into the story of where Snake Eyes is parachuting into. That's essentially what we're getting on this page. And Snake Eyes is landing in Borovia, remember, to rescue his, at one time would have been his future brother-in-law, but his sister got killed. So his dead sister's fiance. And we're reminded that Snake Eyes is in the Arashikage mindset, so he's got no fear, no pain, no pity, etc. And below in Borovia, the citizens have revolted. So they are burning things. They're at the capital city. They're burning things. They're tearing statues down. This guy. Now, this guy, whose name, I don't think we know it yet. We do learn it later, though. But this guy, this rabble-rouser here, who's leading the charge. I dig how they just jump right into it, and you can immediately tell that he's kind of a POS because, they're all saying, let's fight, let's get out of the yoke of communism. But this dude is saying we upper Borovians were instrumental in the overthrow, and now the lower Borovian minority is getting special treatment. Are we going to stand for this? So that's great. So that's huge kudos to Larry for, you could easily just make this a people rising up against their government story. But he decides to add this extra layer of not only are people rising up, but within the people, you also have the opportunity to have, whether it's racism or classism or whatever ism you want to call it, that's a danger that's going to leak into the new government. And that's a wrinkle you don't need to, you don't need to add that to a G.I. Joe. I love that he did, because it just adds more flavor to it. And it adds more tension to, what could absolutely easily just be a us versus them thing. No, it's us versus them. So as Snake Eyes lands on the rooftop, the people of Borovia are tearing down statues and lighting fires.
Yo, Joe!
And what's great here is Snake Eyes is not here for this. That's also what's great about this. Snake Eyes is here for his mission. He is not here to liberate any Borovians, help anyone with their cause. He is straight up here to get information. And, we know he's there to get Strawhacker, but that's it. He lands on the roof in some nice, really nice detail by Bright on all these pages of Snake Eyes' his actions. Because he's a silent character, he speaks through his body. So his character acting has to be strong. And we get that a lot on here. We see 5 guys, soldiers, are in a room, and they've got some heavy machine guns, and they're about to mow down these people in the room, except Snake Eyes is on that roof, and he needs to get into that room. So they don't know it, but they're about to be added to the Snake Eyes kill count.
Yo, Joe!
He drops down from the gutter on top as they start to fire out the window, and they are hitting civilians, men, women, probably children. And Snake Eyes, actually, the gutter betrays Snake Eyes, and he starts falling. So he falls 1, 2, looks like he falls 2 stories down.
Yo, Joe!
Catches himself with one hand on a flagpole. It's awesome. And he uses his duffel bag to swing into a window and, knock out some of these guards, opening up a hole for him to go inside that window. It's a great piece of recovery, of athleticism, of acting with the pencil. It's really, really great. And while that's happening, the leader guy, the rabble rouser guy downstairs, do we still have his name yet? I don't know. I don't think we got his name yet. He sees that Snake Eyes is out there. Oh, Metz. It's Metz. That's his name. They called him earlier, the rabble rouser Metz. So Metz sees that Snake Eyes is, he doesn't know who he is, a guy, is attacking the soldiers. So they're going to take that opportunity to storm the building. And Snake Eyes wastes no time. Now, this is what's neat. They've shown in all these panels that Snake Eyes is slowly freeing himself from, first he cuts the parachute off himself. And now after throwing that duffel bag in the room, now he cuts the strap for the duffel bag because now he needs to be fully free to take these dudes on. And then as he jumps into the room, he does a little backflip and he throws his knife.
Yo, Joe!
Adding 1 to the kill count. And then he uses that sweet, sweet Uzi, and he mows down another 2 more people in the room, leaving 2 guards left unattacked, and they're on a heavy machine gun. And this is just great. It's just great choreography. That's the word I've been actually struggling to think of for the last 5 minutes. Wonderful choreography by Mark Bright. Going to this long shot, this page here, page 8 that we're on, where you've got Snake Eyes in the middle at the top and like almost a half page spread. It's almost a half page spread. So it looks like it's like about maybe 2/5 page spread. And Snake Eyes in the middle, it tells you everything that he's up against. It's almost putting us in his point of view. We're right behind him. So he sees that he has 5 guys he needs to take care of. He already took care of 1 with a knife. He hits 2 more with the Uzi. Then the camera flips back so that we can just watch Snake Eyes in action. So now we get to see a look of the room as Snake Eyes jumps, bounds up, grabs the chandelier.
Yo, Joe!
And now does his business from the top of the chandelier. And actually, based on, after he lands, the 2 dudes behind the machine gun, I'm assuming he didn't miss. So that means he just shot the other dudes he already shot again. Because the 2 machine gun dudes are not shot yet. So Snake Eyes shot 2 dudes, knifed a third, jumped on a chandelier, and reshot those 3 guys again, not yet attacking the guys in the machine gun. This close-up of Snake Eyes with the its trench knives in a cross pattern is awesome. Absolutely great. I love it. It is super bad, and it's the shadow that gets cast on it is fantastic. And we don't need to know what happens because Joe! Those two dudes get thrown out the window. They're dead meat. And someone says they're jumping out the window, and someone else rightfully points out those men didn't jump. They were sliced up and thrown out. So that's a total of 5 addition to the kill count, guys, which by my reckoning is we're up to 40 on the kill count for Snake Eyes. And, I probably missed a few. I feel like I missed a few along the way, but that's a good kill count. So when these soldiers land, we get a schlump and a splat. Furthering, and a dude's face. Look at the dude on the right. His face is disgusted by what he's seeing, that these guys are dead meat. But by the time the Borovians, both upper and lower, reach that floor, that room's empty. That Snake Eyes just busted into. So who knows where Snake Eyes went. Yo, Joe! Now, Metz is looking for this guy. He wants to, enlist whoever this savior is into their cause. He's calling him a hero of the people. And someone says the guy took off, so he's a little shy. And when they look out the window, they see that Snake Eyes has now changed into a trench coat, hat, fedora, so he's in disguise. So he can walk the streets without looking like a, murderous assassin clad in black. And the Borovians are looking for him. So what this actually tells me is Snake Eyes wanted, yes, they were in the bad guys, the soldiers were quote unquote in his way, but he easily could have landed on that roof and ran another way without ever engaging with those enemies. But there's still a part of Snake Eyes in there that wanted to stop those dudes from mowing down innocent civilians. So this tells me that there is something going on in Snake Eyes that still wants to do the right thing. It's just that he's so zombified that he's not going to stop around for pleasantries, but he will stop to do the right thing and take out those soldiers who are mowing down civilians. Yo, Joe! Meanwhile, in New York City, Scarlett is awake and upset. Why won't anyone answer me? Where is Snake Eyes? And it's a classic. You open on the building and then you just cut into the room. Really nice. I miss comics that do that. Just basic storytelling lifting. It works as both a pause and it's just a refresh. It's a resetter. It's why you use the word meanwhile. It's a visual meanwhile to do this. When you go from action scene to from location to location, it's a pause and a refresh and a reset, and it's always welcome in my book. So Scarlett's fighting with Siobhan. The doctor is pointing out that Siobhan got him banned because from the court order. And we learn that this whole thing with Siobhan is that it was all about the family house in Atlanta. And Scarlett says, if I'd known you'd wanted it this much, I would have signed it over to you, which of course causes Siobhan's greedy heart to well up in tears. And she goes running from the room full of guilt and remorse over what she's done, found out in her greedy schemes. And as she runs out, there's Hawk going like, Scarlett, hey, so sorry. Hawk looks a little weird here because he's not in full military garb. He's dressed like just a dude in a brown jacket and some khakis. Like, hey man, like what? Like he's not, General Hawk. He's just, what? What? So, he informs Scarlett that one of our stealth bombers just dropped him off into Borovia. Yo, Joe! Which is a perfect segue to cut right to the stealth bomber. So that tells you that's the stealth bomber that it's just so great. It's just smart storytelling. You take it for granted, but it's great. It's a great way to tie in stories. And, we do get it further recognized in the dialogue here where Stalker says, I think that dropping your main man into trouble spot like Borovia, so that confirms that, yes, this is the stealth fighter. But we didn't technically need that. But Stalker does not agree necessarily with Snake Eye or Storm Shadow's methods, but and as they exit this, now there is some logistical stuff here that I don't get. So Storm Shadow and Stalker are on the stealth bomber. They get off the stealth bomber. They're getting someone's tracking them with a passive night sight. Okay. They get shot by some darts, and someone off screen is saying, secure those prisoners, get them stowed back on board the stealth bomber. And someone said it's a General Crowther. Now, they're getting hauled up back into the same plane they got out of. Like, who? I guess they could have radioed the soldiers on the stealth bomber to say, hey man, don't tell the dudes in the back, but when you land, we're going to kidnap them. So it just seems weird. Like they just get off the plane and get sucked right back up. It works. It works for storytelling. And here's a note, listeners. It works for storytelling because if you got to figure out a way to move your characters around, whatever, why bother introducing like another vehicle? And seriously, in this case, like why you don't need to have them pull up in another jet. You just do it. So, and then you let the readers figure it out. And in this case, we just did literally as we were reading this going, oh yeah, they're soldiers. They could have easily gotten something on the radio saying, guess what's going to happen? When we land, we're going to tranquilize those guys. And then you're going to fly away with them again. So yeah, totally worked it out.
Yo, Joe!
Now, he says, you remember me, you nasty little renegade. This is General Crowther, who Mark Bright absolutely draws to look just like Chuck Norris. If you don't think this looks like Chuck Norris, you've never seen a Chuck Norris movie. And he basically lays it out for us that the head people, the jugglers and stuff, they're not very fond of Snake Eyes digging up the George Strawhacker stuff. And so they hired a freelance hitman to ice Snake Eyes before he can complete his mission. And he says, you might be rudely surprised to find out who they sent. So, I didn't remember who they sent either. So I'm excited to find out. I know because I read this whole issue right before we went on the air. But when I was reading it, I was like, ooh, who did they send? And in my brain, I was like, it better not be Zartan. And I'm happy to say that it wasn't Zartan. But Storm Shadow's all drugged up, and he says, he as much for us as it is an actual legitimate, you'll never get my buddy statement. He reminds us that Storm Shadow does that he put Snake Eyes into a ninja killing trance. No emotions, no fear, nor pain. So that is as much for us as it is to just have something, for your hero to boast about before he's getting knocked out. Like, you'll never get me to talk. There's as much narrative lifting there as it is anything else. I like the effect they did with the general kind of getting imaginary, wispy, dreamlike as Storm Shadow loses consciousness in this last panel too. That works well.
Yo, Joe!
Your video game headquarters. So you could have bought a Sega Genesis. This is for Child World Children's Palace. That's gilding the lily. You could have gotten a Sega Genesis 16-bit for $190. That's how much a Sega Genesis cost. Oh my God, that seems so expensive. I mean, I know PS4s and stuff are $500, $600 today, but Jesus. $189, $190 for a Sega Genesis. And an NES, $99. That's wild too. It's funny. This reminds me. I just, someone just bought a NES light gun off me on eBay. And they wrote back to say that it doesn't work. And I had to be the one to break it to him that, light guns don't work on flat screen TVs, right? And I think that was news to them. So, spoiler alert, guys, light guns may function correctly, but they don't work on flat screen TVs. Anywhoots. Moving on to the story. We go back to Borovia. And now this whole time you're thinking, we're in Borovia. Last time we were in Borovia, we had that awesome clown and the circus troupe. Where are they? We gotta catch up with them, which is exactly what I've been thinking. And sure enough, here we go. We meet the clown. What's his name? Orlovsky and the white clown. That's right. Orlovsky is his dwarf friend, and he's the white clown. And he shall never laugh again until they learn he discovers the fate of his beautiful Magda. We haven't seen these guys since G.I. Joe 66. You remember the Joes used their circus cannon to shoot over the ravine after they had freed Snowjob and Stalker and and Quick Kick from the Gulag, and remember Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes and Scarlett, and was it Jinx was with them? Was Jinx with them? They went on the rescue mission, and that's the last time we saw these guys. So it's nice to know they're still in the mix. But beautiful Magda has been taken from the White Clown. So as he's at the front of this, they're at the former headquarters of the security police, and they're protesting, and there's fires, and it's a whole thing. But in the middle of all this, some dude cuts through, and he's shoving people, and he's like, "Hey, you're like, don't be rude." And it's Snake Eyes. It's Snake Eyes in his trench coat look, and he does like a double somersault vault underneath this barricade that was built up. And, someone the text needs to explain to us that he vaulted over the barricade like a circus acrobat. And he's running right through machine gun fire into the security police headquarters. I like that it's there. But we don't need it. I prefer
Yo, Joe!
in my Snake Eyes stories, and I do not at all remotely need every Snake Eyes story to be a silent issue. In fact, that bothers me. The more silent issues we get, I'm like, let's not go back down that route so often, because sometimes they're not that great. But I do want minimal explanations. I want the artwork to the choreography to speak for it. And I think Bright does a great job in this. I think Bright's choreography tells us everything we need to know. For the most part, we do need exposition of things like, he's in a trance, and what's he looking for? He's looking for this file, that kind of thing. Some like mental things that we wouldn't necessarily know. But things like this, where you see it in the artwork, and you see him doing the flip. There's bullets bouncing. I would say maybe add a couple more bullets at his feet. That's enough for me. If you need someone in the background to say something to kind of fill up the gap, you just give them a wow, something like that. So anyway, like all good acrobats, they have what is it? It's funny. I'm trying to think of Total Recall. I'm trying to think of I can't remember the words to say when I'm trying to think of photographic memory. That's so funny. That's the words I couldn't think of. They have the photograph. All good acrobats and all good acrobatic stories remember how other people jump and leap and twist. And so in this case, he says that leap and somersault, I never forget an acrobat style. Remember him. And I've seen that used in like Batman stories where someone sees Robin do a leap and a Nightwing, Dick Grayson. They're like, man, that was only ever done with, I think Tim Drake used that. Like that was a move done by Dick Grayson and the Flying Graysons, blah, blah. Or that was a move that Dead Man did. You must be possessed by Dead Man. This photographic memory that acrobats have for other acrobats' moves is awesome. I'm not knocking it. I think it's a fabulous trope of, I don't know if it's just comic books, but I read a lot of comics and I see it a lot in comic books. I think it's great. You see the same thing with martial arts too, where, someone throws a punch and they're like, only one man knows how to throw a punch like that. You trained under Master Kilgore, things like that. It's fabulous. And yet it's the same medium that gives us eyeglasses, the ultimate disguise. Figure that out. I can't. But Snake Eyes vaulting over the crew gives the White Clown all the encouragement he needs. So he goes from, here's what I really, really like. If you look at these two pages, this first page, there's a couple shots of White Clown. 1, 2, 3. There's 3 shots really that you can make out. First one, it's a little far, but he doesn't look happy. Second one, he looks pained and just distressed. I'm on page 18 now. Third one, he's so upset because Snake Eyes barged past him. Now you go to 19 here, and there is a look of hope and happiness on the White Clown's face. I'm not even joking. I think it's so great. He is so smiling, and really the people behind him too. It's like Snake Eyes the mere vision of one man vaulting over a bunch of wooden barricades is enough to get these people elated, and I like it. I like this change of attitude for the White Clown. It's great. He recognizes that it's Snake Eyes, and they're gonna follow Snake Eyes into the barricades, a la Les Mis.
Yo, Joe!
And bam, this panel's great. It's a half-page spread of just Snake Eyes just blowing through a door, feet first, Uzi blaring, killing everyone in sight. So we got there's at least one dead soldier. So we're going to give him 1 for that. So we're going to add 1 to the kill count here. It's at least 1 soldier that absolutely Snake Eyes killed because it's before this white clown got in the room. White clown gets another soldier after that.
Yo, Joe!
More people storm in the room. Now Snake Eyes jumps in and the soldiers actually give up. So there's no more kill counts here. But Snake Eyes is here to get the files on Strawhacker. And this is the kind of exposition that I'm talking about that I do think is great and fine and needed in a lot of the Snake Eyes stories where White Clown says he came straight to the records room. He might be able to find Magda's file, and that's what we were searching for, or that's what we want. What is Snake Eyes searching for? So they're like filling in those blanks of things that we wouldn't really know. We get a lot of close-ups of Snake Eyes' face in this issue too. And again, kind of driving home that his face is not that bad.
Yo, Joe!
Now, maybe it's so damaged it's not very expressive, but there's really only only 2 big scars. Otherwise, he looks pretty handsome. He's a handsome man, that Snake Eyes, which is a weird thing to say. So that Mets guy shows up, and he's trying to ride Snake Eyes' jock, really. And Snake Eyes is ignoring everyone because he's literally there to find Strawhacker. But we get this tension, and this is why it's great that Larry added this upper Borovia and lower Borovia thing, because we get the tension between Mets and the White Clown, who is, I'm sure, would be considered the lower Borovians, more of the common people as a circus performer, and actually even, I don't even know what part of the country he's from. But he calls it here, shooting lower Borovians is pure and simple racism. If you do this, you're no better than the old oppressed were. So this is really great stuff, and it's really elevated stuff, I think, for a kid's comic book.
Yo, Joe!
And Snake Eyes finds the Strawhacker file, the George Strawhacker file, and we see it's a picture of George. He's held up in chains. He looks older and gray, and it's funny. It seems like the clown. No, he's probably reading the file, but he's like he was an agent of the American Intelligence Agency, but he says it with a question mark, so he's reading the file along with Snake Eyes. And again, this is the kind of narrative voiceover that is fine and that works well with any Snake Eyes story, because he gives us the information that Strawhacker was put in a secret security cell block underneath Gulag 23 near Pvinsk. And he says that's where they sent Magda. Well, we can go together, and then Snake Eyes just leaves. So the clown and his friend are just going to follow Snake Eyes everywhere.
Yo, Joe!
Snake Eyes is, a man on a mission. A little girl comes up to him and says, "Please help us. You can help us turn the tide here." And Snake Eyes is not having any of it. She says that they're going to shoot my father, saying he was a collaborator, but he wasn't. He's not guilty of anything than being a lower Borovian. "Mister, they said you were a hero." She's on her knees pleading for Snake Eyes. And this is showing how deep in this trance Snake Eyes is, because Snake Eyes is not helping this little girl.
Yo, Joe!
And Metz kills this little girl's dad. Straight up shoots him. Snake Eyes does not care. That's how deep. Such good storytelling, because it's not necessarily Snake Eyes' fault that this happened, but to show how deep this trance is, Snake Eyes does not stop to help this little girl. He's just not here for it. He's here for one thing. And she's sad, as you would be. And now we meet the assassin that the government hired to come get Snake Eyes, and sure enough, it's Major Blood. When was the last time we saw Major Blood? I do not recall. And this is great. Perhaps we can come to an agreement that would benefit both of us, he's saying to Metz. So he wants to play both sides and get paid from both the government, U.S. government, and these Borovians. Major Blood back in play.
Yo, Joe!
And now we're going to jump back to Sierra Gordo. We've been here a lot in the last few issues, but we haven't touched on it yet. This one, remember last we left them, Roadblock was blinded, and he was carrying Misha from the October Guard on his back, like acting as Misha's legs, because his legs were all messed up. They were walking with the Tucaros through the forest, and Cobra himself, they were deforesting the area and chasing the Joes into it, and it's a big jungle chase. One of the Tucaros is really hurt bad. He's got peritonitis, which if you don't know, meaning I had to look it up myself, it's inflammation of the membrane lining of your abdominal wall and covering your abdominal organs, and you get it from it's an infection from bacteria or fungi. So mostly bacteria from getting shot is what's going to kill this poor young Tucaro. Without surgery, he's dead meat. But they're all making their way slowly through this jungle, and Annibal, who is the Western-educated Tucaro, who's kind of like taking the leadership role, the guy in the khakis and the white shirt and stuff. He's basically like, man, we're home free, guys. Once we get over that ridge, we're going to be into our impenetrable tropical rainforest. So, Darklon's troops are never going to be able to find them there, except...
Yo, Joe!
Your rainforest has been reduced to 2x4s and toothpicks. Darklon and Cobra have clear-cut everything. This whole valley is just completely destroyed. So now we're getting into like deforestation and rainforest stuff, which we've been skirting around with this, but it's always never really saw that in action really in any of these issues. They were just saying that Darkline wanted to do it. They wanted to clear out a bunch of areas. This is a really nice big splash page that Mark Bright draws here. The Joes and the Tucaros are really small on the bottom, and it's just this wide vista stretching out from mountains of nothing. Just all these dead tree stumps. They're in a quote unquote rainforest, zone, and it looks like just desert because all the trees, all the foliage, all the green is gone. There's some train tracks. There's just cars carrying lumber away, and that's it. Like the Tucaro forest is gone. So that's really, it's not good, but it's cool. Like I like that ending. It's a good bleak ending. And that's it. That's it for it. Next issue, we got Hidden Aces. Over in the post box, The Pit, we got someone, David Vaught from Chino Hills, California. He's asking about the Crimson Guards, like how does that work? So he must have been a relatively new listener. He's asking, why do all the Crimson Guardsmen look alike? So that's cool. They give a little, reminder that they all have facial plastic surgery, etc. And also, this is great. I don't remember reading this as a kid because I think on this show we said like, oh, is that a mask or is that a disguise or whatever? But this is great because in the letters pages, I believe it was written by Larry, they said Cobra Commander does not look anything like a Fred, nor does he really have a ponytail, goatee, and glasses. So all of that was a traveling disguise. So that's cool. That's a nice confirmation we have there. Tim Alberg from Lansing, Illinois, he writes in. And their answer that he talks about how much he likes the Vipers, different kinds of Vipers, etc. And they answer him, wait till you see the windshield Vipers, which just makes me think of come to wipe the windows. And it's so good. Matt Parker does not give an address, but he writes in talking about trying to get a no prize, but he did not do it. And Diane Hernandez from Windsor, Ontario, Canada. And she writes about being worried that G.I. Joe is going to be canceled. This is in response to like the Jugglers canceling the G.I. Joe team within the story. And they said the rumors of G.I. Joe demise are a bit premature, considering their imminent live-action motion picture in the works from Warner Brothers. What? Whatever happened to the Warner Brothers version of G.I. Joe? I want to know. Does anyone know that story? Have you guys ever has anyone covered that on a podcast? What was the Warner Brothers G.I. Joe movie going to be like? And then they end this with actually an attention. They say, who's your favorite Joe? This is from the editors. Who's your favorite Joe? We want to know. Drop us a quick postcard just to name your single favorite G.I. Joe. Don't send essays. All Joes who have appeared in any issue of G.I. Joe are eligible. When the votes are in, we're going to run the results. And send your response to Postbox The Pit Project Joe. Get out those pens, troops. So yeah, so that's it for G.I. Joe 104, guys. It's a great issue. I really like it. I really dig Mark Bright's G.I. Joe stuff. I can't stress how much it's just solid in the type of artwork that G.I. Joe thrives with. And what was the G.I. Joe Warner Brothers movie gonna be? Probably would have been terrible, but at the time Warner Brothers just did Batman. They were hot off that comic property, so that probably was factored into their thinking. So, does anyone know what that story was all about? Maybe they covered it in an issue of Wizard Magazine. I don't know the answer to this. But, who knows what we'll find out next time on Joe, because now you Joe, and Joeing is half the battle.